Yeah.
Do you see, this was just really cool to see that like we are still discovering new species. Like that to me is just like crazy because I feel like for so long it felt like we had been past all the fun new discovery phases, except for like the bottom of the ocean. But I'm gonna try and find it here. But they found a new species of marsupial in Australia. Here we are.
Greater glider cat-sized marsupial that lives in the forest of Australia.
Yeah, this little guy.
He's cute.
Yeah.
Is it like a bat kind of thing?
Um,
Is they're gliders, they say.
I don't know. Oh, two new marsupial species.
Yeah, but it looks like they're related. They're just close cousins.
Hmm. Oh, until last week, the glider was classified as a single species, but a new study found that it was actually three different ones, marking the discovery of two new marsupial species.
So it's not really like they discovered a whole
Okay,
new
so maybe
species. They kind of
like,
discovered a variation of the species.
yeah, which like we already knew about in a sense.
A bit more like micro evolution than macro.
Um, Caitlin and I were talking yesterday about how like just weird, like how weird memories are, and how like you can feel like when you remember something, you kind of like get those feelings back of like how you felt in that situation, but you can feel like separated from it. And then we were talking about how there are like stages in your life where that's the last memory someone has of you. And I was like, so who I was in like high school, that's who a lot of the people I went to high school with think I am. And that's just like so weird to me.
To you, yeah. Well, we traveled the country a lot. We were in different places. People we haven't seen for decades now, especially the younger people, like some of the camp staff or campers, right? And when we see them now or see pictures of them or something like on Facebook or whatever, it's like, who the heck is that person? And yet
Yeah.
the funny thing is there's other ones that are like totally the same, right?
Yeah. And that was the other thing is we were like, can you imagine just like not changing? Like who you are is just like who you are. And like that to me is just such a like a out there concept that like you could just remain constant.
I think that you have to find yourself. When you find yourself, when you really find yourself, then there's less that you feel like you need to change,
But
right?
I don't even necessarily think that it's like a need to change and more just like you're just constantly learning. And so the more you learn, the more you're like challenging your own behaviors and like thinking about your interactions. And I don't know.
You think like if you're a blank slate, right, when you're a baby and you're constantly learning and you're constantly changing, that rate of change and rate of learning may never change or may never stop, but more and more of what you have learned and what you've changed sticks, right?
Yeah. So you
So
become,
relatively, it looks like there's less and less and less that's actually changing, right?
and there's like the same sort of like foundation then within it. But then I don't know. I think it's important to be like, to not think of yourself as like done changing, if that makes sense.
I think you're right. I think it's very important to think of yourself as having arrived, and you should never change or never try to learn
Yeah.
more. That's how
It's,
you get to be stuck in your ways.
well, exactly. And so then, like I said to Avery, I was like, I'm so curious of the things that, like, how I'm going to be when I'm older. Am I going to be, I think I said this to you too, like the values that I have now, I can't see myself like letting go of or changing or like anything like that. But I'm thinking about all of the things that I still have to learn and how, like, am I going to be stuck in my ways and just never want to change? Or am I going to be like receptive to that stuff? I don't know.
I think there's probably core values, though, that you hang on to and that you should hang on to that never change unless they're challenged in such a way that you think they need to change,
Yeah.
right? And just
And
because those core values stay there doesn't mean that other things around it can't change.
I think there's some people who are way more receptive to like situations where their core values might be challenged, and more open to having someone kind of like explain it and not be like, okay, at the end of this conversation, nothing's going to matter. I'm still going to be like stuck in my ways. And more so like, whereas there's some other people who are like, okay, I'm going to go into this situation and learn and be okay with myself changing if it gets to that point. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think there are some of us who are maybe a little bit more open to just being open, right? And when you're more open, then you have an opportunity to correct things, to set your course straight again. Whereas if you're not, you're stuck, then if you're veering off course, then you're just getting further and further away from the right path, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where a lot of Trump supporters are.
Let's get political.
Uh,
The next
yeah.
4 years are going to be interesting too. Like, first of all, what's going to happen with Trump? Where is he going to go? Is he going to concede? And then what's that going to mean with his supporters? Like, I've already heard some rumblings that Trump is going to continue to kind of drive his supporters, that I heard something about media empire that Trump might try, can you imagine? And then how does Biden combat that or compete with that? And even how good is he going to be? Is he going to do a good job in there? Or?
That's the thing is, I'm like, I trust that Biden will do a better job than Trump in terms of like humanitarian issues. Obviously, I can't say that he's going to be like the perfect president.
No, well, nobody is, and I think the challenges of leadership like that, like, it's not like you can just walk in and, oh, it's easy, just fix this. Like, everything has dominoes that you think you're fixing something, you end up breaking something else, right? So it's not an easy job.
And the thing about having like one person to basically be like, I don't know, I know that like you can't just like pass a law or like get a bill passed just because you're the president, but like a lot of the stuff that they're going to push is based on the president isn't going to back something that's against their own values. And so if the president then is not willing to change and be receptive to criticism, and if they're just unwilling to educate themselves or be educated by other people or have those conversations, then it becomes a bit more like detrimental than just like you or I being like, no, I'm gonna stick to my ways. I don't know if that makes sense. I just don't necessarily think that it should be one person.
Well, I think that's why they have a 4-year term. You give one person a chance for 4 years. If they do a job everybody thinks is okay, we'll give them another 4 years.
I kind of hope though that because like Biden, I mean, it depends on how she does, but because like Biden was the vice president to Obama and now he's like run for president, then like I'm excited to see if like Kamala also runs for president at some point.
Yeah, I kind of felt a little bit like when they brought her on, it was like grooming her or trying to, get her in a place where people would see what she could do and
Yeah,
or even get her in the inner circle so she learns. I don't know, but
yeah. So I'm excited to see.
well, and that's not a bad thing to do either, I think, because part of the problem with, I think, with our democratic society is it's a little too easy sometimes for individuals who have no clue about the political realm to simply get elected, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, I mean, honestly, like Justin Trudeau, I was not a big fan of when he first came in, and probably more for that reason than any other, because he really did not have the experience. And I think he showed his naivety at the beginning. I think he's learned a lot. And I think he's
Yeah.
handling the pandemic as well as anybody could.
Yeah.
So I respect the guy, but I did not think at the time that he maybe was the right person. If he had been in politics longer, if he had more opportunity, I mean, he grew up in a family that he would have seen it, but would he really have seen it? Not
And I
necessarily.
think that also has an impact though, is because he's like maybe he felt the pressure, you know how people are like, I felt the pressure to like take over the family business. Maybe he was like,
in Canada.
I need to step up to the plate. Like, how are you supposed to compete with a dad that's the prime minister? Like, how are you supposed to top that? So
And you wonder how Trudeau Senior might have looked at some of his out of Trudeau's Junior's politics, right?
yeah.
It is what it is. We live with it, and we work with what we can, right? So,
Yeah.